This is episode 185 of GI Joburg. Instead of one DJ and three MCs, we got one Pogo and three Triple T's.
Boom!
I'm Steve.
And I'm Paul.
The deadliest pencils. And this is GI Joburg's tribute to the Pogo and the Triple T. Random, I know, there'll be reasons perhaps later, but if you could leave a like on this video if you're watching on YouTube, that would help us more than you know. It would help us more than I know, because I don't really understand algorithms. All I know is that it's a thing to do, so click, click, click. And hey, if you're listening to this on a podcatcher, why not leave us a review? That helps too. And moving on from the sales plug, Paul, how you doing, my brother? It's been a week. We're doing this now, I think.
Yes.
We're gonna try the weekly thing, see how it works. I know I enjoy a weekly podcast, the ones that I listen to. So maybe we'll just be that persistent voice in your head, guys. Every week you'll have these two idiots talking about plastic crap.
Yeah, that'll be us. No, man. I mean, not to put a spotlight on it or anything. Yeah, I think the weekly thing is going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. I think with our next one with 186, I'd like to see if we can get a live studio audience.
Well, hey, get excited, everybody.
Yeah, so that'll be, now that we have a plan for how we're going to do this, a plan, he says, inverted commas. Paul did bunny ears. Anyway, I'm good, man.
Paul, this is radio, not video.
Yeah.
The debate rages as to whether or not this should be with faces, but I think there's no ways I want to turn my back on the podcast crowd. This is an audio medium first, so we're going to refrain from doing too many bells and whistles on the YouTube version, though I am thrilled that the YouTube version has the kind of reach that it does. Of course it does. YouTube, it's us. We broadcast. It's our own TV channel, and it's a big one. Anyways.
Joburg, totally excellent. Extreme close up. Oh wait.
Would Wayne's World have much relevance today? I mean, they would be influencers, but would their channel have gotten off the ground in the highly competitive market of YouTube? They'd have to do all the kind of clickbait stuff. They couldn't be niche rockers.
I think, and I might be stepping on a landmine here, but I think Wayne's World was the prototype for YouTube. Like the movie and the characters that Mike Myers created, Garth and Wayne, or Wayne and Garth. That whole thing, I think that was the prototype for what YouTube was going to be. I don't think that they intentionally thought it of like that. It's just because I'm sure there were a lot of guys that were doing public, broadcast TV stuff in the day.
Pirate channels.
But here's the thing, if you've watched Wayne's World, if you watch the Wayne's World shorts on SNL, and I have, they are very much like YouTube videos. They actually work very well as YouTube videos because they do their summation of the Oscars, and they do skits. They do all kinds of stupid stuff that YouTube and famous YouTubers are doing today. So it's very interesting. They even react. They even do reaction videos like, "Aah! Aah!"
Hey, Wayne and Garth, you guys better sue YouTube for infringing on your original IP. Damn. Anyways, moving the agenda on to G.I. Joe. Paul, I have become a sad victim of the same fate that befell you and your lowlight backpack.
Oh.
Yes. I purchased a backpack that on eBay was called and listed as Lowlight 1986 original accessory. It was not. It was the call. And then it prompted me to have a search on eBay to see how many similar listings actually had the original accessory and how many had the core substitute. And they're very close, as you know. But whereas the Lowlight original accessory has two molded magazines, they're like pistol magazines, they're straight box clips, molded on if you're facing the back of the backpack, they're on the left in a pouch The core knockoff, I'm going to call it a knockoff because it's so close to the original. It might as well be a knockoff and not its own thing. The core just has a single pouch. And I was not only taken in with lowlights, but Mercer as well. I got slipped a core backpack instead of Mercer's. The differences are quite marked, but they only stand up if you're looking at the actual accessory. Photography, it's difficult to see because obviously this is a black accessory and the contrast is normally a little bit too high to see where the water bottle is, where the grenade is. The fact that on the core accessory, they look like two cylinders on the top of the satchel flap. So on the top of the backpack, you got these two cylinders, which might be, I don't know, sticks of explosive or flares. On the actual accessory, the Mercer 1987 backpack, those are absent. Anyway, it's okay. The thing about the core backpacks is they have a slightly different fit. So you'll find, at least with my version, it won't, the low-light backpack, or the low-light, air quotes, the incorrect low-light backpack, that will not fit 1986 low-lights, but is a very nice fit on the Renegades, for instance. Taurus will wear that backpack very deeply. It'll be a nice fit on his back, which is great because, I'm going down the rabbit hole here, but forgive me, this is a G.I. Joe specific podcast. You guys can follow me, right? The Renegades backpacks have a very poor fit because they're all reused backpacks from an earlier era and now going into the backs of later 80s figures. They all stand too far away from the backs of the figures. So the core backpacks, ironically, work better. Take it or leave it. You're either a purist or you like the way they fit, or neither. Maybe you believe that the Renegades belong at the bottom of the pile and never see light of day. But if you're a fan like me and Paul, these are good substitute backpacks.
Speaking of, just quickly, is the Mercer one also quite matted? Because I know with my low-light backpack, low-light, air quotes, core low-light backpack, mine's got like a matte finish. It hasn't got a shiny finish.
Yeah, that's true. But here's the other caveat. A lot of the 1986 low-light backpacks do have that more gummy plastic finish. I know my original certainly does. It's like the same plastic as the guns. It's not the hard plastic that you typically get the backpacks in.
Yeah.
So there are layers of confusion to this confusion. But I'd say the best tell, particularly for the low-light accessory, is the two magazines. And there are a lot of them on eBay. It wasn't just this seller. I went through it, and about a third of the listings were all the core backpacks being passed off as low-light original accessories. And I don't think it's being done deliberately or to deceive. I think it's just ignorance. It's such a fine distinction that sellers are oblivious to it.
And also doesn't the original low-light backpack also have that cool kind of, I want to say cross-hashing, but it's not really cross-hashing, but that like diamond-y pattern?
And you're right. The core accessory does not have that kind of cross-hatching.
Wow.
On the body of the bag.
Hectic. Okay. Well, that's one for me.
You've got a variation there as well?
No. I'm just saying, no. That's 1 point for me for actually like knowing that. Usually I don't know.
Well done. But good luck trying to see that kind of detail in photography on eBay, which has varying degrees of quality.
That's why, and I refer to the old to that old episode when I got this Shockwave, when I got the low-light backpack from Mr. Creech. That is why I totally see it as like it's an honest mistake. It's an easy mistake to make. I mean, even I thought it was Low-Light's actual backpack, and it was when I told him, he was also like, wow, he didn't know, and so. Yeah, but also once again, and I'm not saying this to be weird or anything, there are certain qualities about that, and you did mention earlier, Now, when you're talking about how it fits the Renegades really well, I kind of like the fit for this backpack on my lowlights as well. I don't know, something about it just seems safer. Also having seen Ben break his backpack the other day on that video that we shot.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Referencing the Talking Joe GI Joburg collaboration to chat about the 1990 Benelux catalog. Check the channel for details.
But yeah, like I saw that and I was like, yeah. Anyway, so now that we've just driven up the price of the lowlight backpack, what else is happening on your side, Steve?
More misfortunes, pal. I have
Oh.
entered into the quagmire or the competitive dog-eat-dog world of Australian GI Joe Facebook buy-sell trade groups.
Uh-oh.
And they are busy, man. It's great because it's got frequent listings and a lot of stuff trading hands, but it's a less competitive market than the United States.
Yeah.
So sometimes you'll see a claim auction with good toys not being claimed. Like normally with claim auctions, you snooze, you lose. Literally, like 2 minutes after the picture goes up, someone says claim.
Yes,
PM sent.
Yeah, there you go. I bought from Black Major. I know the feel. Yeah.
So it's very quick in the bigger GI Joe groups that perhaps have their base of operations in the United States. But here in Oz, things can often sit for hours, even days, not being claimed. I saw a Storm Shadow version 2 without his sword or his bow, but with the Tekakagi, the claws, and the backpack, going for just $20, which is 200 Rand, which I think for a good condition Stormy is great. Yeah, my current Storm Shadow, well, I say current, it's back in South Africa. My Storm Shadow has a slightly yellowed leg. Obviously a child, well, if you believe Michael French's theory that like the acid in our fingers interacts with the white of these white toys, geez, it's going to make us so very neurotic about touching our Storm Shadows in future. But anyways, he believes that there's a transfer of this acid and it does create the yellowing. So obviously the child who owned this would always manipulate Storm Shadow from his right leg. Anyway, I'm not adding credence to that necessarily, but it would be nice to be able to have a white Storm Shadow to stay in the drawer and never see light of day.
Now, I gotta say, I do support that theory. It's actually so funny that you brought that up, yellowing of figures and stuff, because I've been looking at a lot of tutorials on the internet for, firstly, how to remove or fix yellowing, and also how to fix and remove stickiness. Now, thankfully, I don't have any stickiness on my GI Joes, but I do have some stickiness on some of the modern era GI Joes that I detected the other day because I was just sort of reorganizing my shelves. And I mean, ladies and gentlemen, I do not like there are certain Joes that I just display because they're cool, but it's not necessarily the version of Snake Eyes I like to play around with. So, I moved that the other day and I was like, oh, wow. And it was the Resolute Snake Eyes that had like a little bit of stickiness on his web gear and whatever's. And I thought that was a bit strange. And so I'm not saying it's just from us handling the toys that it does that, but I can believe it because games controllers, like especially with the PlayStation, and with my experience on the PlayStation, the analog sticks, they have those like little rubber tops.
Oh, yeah.
And those tend to actually get sticky after a while if you neglect them. If you keep them, like with my PS3, because I haven't played my PS3 in a long time and haven't needed to touch the controllers. When I grabbed my controller the other day, they were a little bit tacky. And I think it's because of that. There's oils and things on your fingers that get absorbed into the plastic and they have reactions with the chemicals. And then once they've been along. Yeah.
This is tragic. Okay, guys, have a toy collection, but never handle them ever again. We're drifting pretty far from the original topic, and I will just say this much about the subject of rubber and plastic and oil degradation. Snowcat Ron, friend of the show, alerted me to the fact that rubber tires you should be wary of because in certain climates or certain conditions, they will degrade and they will sort of stick to things. So if you've got a Sky Striker parked on your flag deck,
Yep.
Maybe just put a little bit of stopper or buffer between those tires and the deck. Otherwise, you might lift your Sky Striker one day and have a little, and it'll
maybe
have
put a
left
grease
behind a residue. I haven't had that experience yet. Maybe Cape Town's got a magical climate, but I doubt Cape Town's climate is too different from the Netherlands. I don't know. Who knows? But getting back to Storm Shadow, Paul.
Yes, sorry, man. Sorry.
Claimed it. The guy sent me a private message, said, "It's yours, mate. Is there anything else you'd like? I've got stuff for sale next week as well. I can just hang on to this and we just add to your pile." I sent him my parts list, and he said he could help me out with a number of those things. Week later, he shoots me back the parts. Yeah, I can help you with a couple of those things. I was quite excited about getting another Tekakagi because...
Two claws are better than one claw.
Is it just me, or is that how it should be wielded? It's weird to have one claw and a sword. You want to have a claw in both hands because it is a climbing implement. So you wouldn't just climb with your one hand. And as a weapon, it would be awkward to wield one claw and one sword. Like, it's difficult to marry your right and left hands' movements that way. Whereas if they're both claws, the slashing action can be kind of doubled up, or, one claw. Anyways, I'm overthinking this, but I just think it would be nice to have Storm Shadow version 2 with a claw in each hand. Yeah. Not to mention the Wolverine potentials, obviously. So he shoots me back a list of parts that he's found on my parts list. And I say, "Great, thank you. Just shoot me a shipping quote for that and the Storm Shadow, and I'll pay you ASAP." And he's like, Oh, the Storm Shadow, that was meant to go to you, right? Sorry, mate, I sold that on.
Oh, fuck. Flabbergasting fudge.
I mean, what do you do? I mean, honest mistake. Like, this is the curse of our age. It's a blessing and a curse that there are informal trades happening all the time. So much availability, so much wealth of stuff changing hands. But of course, we're not a business. We don't keep books. We don't have a system. We get shot private messages, and they get buried under hundreds of other private messages. So the guy has my sympathy. I just was a bit bummed out. He could sense that, and so he gave me a free Zorana.
Hey!
Yeah, win. I don't have a Zorana here, and my Zorana back home, ironically, it was a Christmas gift from good old Robbo once upon a time. It's in played with condition, whereas this one is looking pretty spiff.
And it looked at condition.
Yeah, exactly. Don't touch. Oils. It's gonna mess with the color changing feature.
Yeah, I think the thing to take away from the oil discussion is that, you know what, maybe you should just play with your toys now while you can. And the thing to take away from your discussion is, unfortunately shit happens. Sorry, man. That is
when they close me up in my casket, I want nothing but plastic shards to remain of my collection. And the final bit of news, my new buddy, who resides in the very same armpit of Australia that I happen to live in, he gifted me a pack of silver and gold Sharpies. Now, I have resisted these things for a long time, preferring to rather apply paints old school style with brush and watering them down sufficiently to get a nice, clean application. Yes. Buddy, the silver and gold Sharpies have that beat. They go on effectively. They add vibrant metallic color, and they are smooth.
Wow.
I have failed to get any kind of glop from a felt tip Sharpie, silver or gold.
Oh, cool. So they're self-level. That's awesome.
Well, it's amazing. I am converted, and I'm preaching to anyone who might hear this that if you have minor accents that you'd like to add or change or improve upon, that is the way to go. I don't know, I might be stepping into very contentious ground about making touch-ups to action figures, but this is pretty seamless, bro.
And how do you clean it up if you make a mistake?
Oh, then you're fucked. Buy a new figure.
Or
Yeah. Basically, you need to do it very carefully. I
okay.
mean, for instance, I did a little customization even because I have a Sarge version 2, Sgt Slaughter version 2, and the whistle is always going to be a point of paint rub. So it was a very much a flesh-colored whistle instead of its usual olive. But I decided to brass it up. I decided to add the gold accent to his whistle, and I'm glad I did not add it to his peck, because he is, of course, Sergeant Slaughter and not Gold Dust.
Not gold dust. Although, okay, well, if you want to know, for Sharpie markers on plastic, you can use a little bit of rubbing alcohol, and that should remove it. So,
And eventually the plastic too, right?
no, isopropyl's quite safe on the plastic. Yeah.
Ah, good to know. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Now you know.
And
everyone went there in their minds, so we don't have to say it.
Yay. Cool.
Paul, I've hogged the mic. Do you have any new shit you want to talk about? Oh, happy Valentine's Day. Ooh, my soet Valentijn. Lekker Valentijnsdag, liefie.
Dankie, liefie. Swinkies.
Ja, swinkies vir jou. Goeiemôre my vrou, hier's 'n swinkie vir jou. Goeiemôre my man, daar is koffie in die kan. Did you ever sing that song?
I have never sung that song before, but I'm going to surprise and freak out Celia with it now. So
yes.
I do know it. I do know it. So you have brought it back up from the deepest, darkest recesses of my memory. So
nice, brew. Nice.
Yeah.
Courtesy of a pseudo old South African education.
Right? Oh. I mean, what is that? A nursery school thing? Anyway. Yeah, like nothing new, really, which is actually not a bad thing, because I have been a little bit indulgent with getting the Ninja Turtles and all that kind of stuff. Although I did get, Steven's talking about Sharpie markers, and I did pick up a new product called Armored Komodo Pigments, and they produce a really, really good-looking chrome effect, and they are fairly easy to use, yeah. And I picked them up mostly for model kit building, but I did pick up a nice chrome to maybe just experiment with one of the modern era Cobra Commander heads to see if I could take that silver faceplate and turn it into a chrome faceplate. And I'm going to save that one for some assembly required. But yeah, it's a pretty good product. I believe in the States they go for about between $8 and $13. They are super, super cool. And like I said, super easy to use. However, there is one little catch. With my current experimentation, you do need to use an airbrush to lay out a base coat on whatever you want to chrome. You don't have to use paint. Well, no, that's not true. You do have to use paint. So you would have to, for some of them, you have to use a black base coat or a white base coat. So you would have to like airbrush that on. Or if you can get an acrylic spray paint, you might have to use an acrylic spray paint. And then within 5 minutes of your paint application, while the paint is still somewhat tacky, that's when you have to apply the pigment. But once you got that done, because that's the most difficult stage, is just the applying of your paint and working out the tacky phase. You just apply it. It's really good so far. On my tests, it's been really tough. It's been very wear resistant, and I think a clear coat over that would make it even more wear resistant. Anyway, check it out. There are a few YouTube videos on it already, and I will be talking about it in depth on some assembly required. I'm just doing my own experimentation research. So that's kind of like the only like new thing I got, and it does have a little bit of a Joe thing. I am looking at some GI Joes. In fact, just before we started recording this podcast, I was looking at some stuff on the internet, like Night Creeper Leader, which has crept into my heart.
Good heavens.
I really dig the design on that toy. I think he's such a cool figure. But it started off with me looking for a Dress Blues Gung Ho, of which I have found. I found a few. And I've also found a few Steel Brigade guys, although I don't know if I'm quite ready to part with that money for a Steel Brigade yet, but it feels like I might have to if I want a Steel Brigade. So I'm kind of
such a mediocre figure. In fact, it's on the bottom end of mediocre. It's literally just the prestige item of having yourself. in the tiki.
Yeah,
Though he
but
does not fit with anything really. I'm putting him in vehicles. That just hides the figure. I'm putting him in the lineup with like the 1985, 1986 crowd. He just looks out. I don't know what to do with him. I wish I had a shark here because I would just put him in a shark and forget about him. Because I did make Talon a Navy pilot. Anyway, I don't know.
Yeah, but I know that the seller of this particular Steel Brigade does listen to the show, and he's got a D and an E type. So I'm just sort of, yeah. So I don't want to advertise them because I don't want people to know that he's got them before and then buy them all before I've had a chance. Because I know
he's got the recoil gun, right? In grey.
Yes.
Oh, that's so cool. That is such a good gun in any other color but powder blue. So a chance to get that in a grey is oof.
It's a thing. Although, even though the E is meant to have that, it seems like he hasn't got it with that. It seems like he still has. Oh wait, no, yeah, he's got that with. It seems to have that gun with the D, dude. So
maybe it does belong to the D. Why did I even go there? Okay, we're moving out of Paul's custom corner and into Steve asks and Paul answers. Hey, buddy.
Yeah.
The 1988 vehicle action packs are 5 wind up and go vehicles, courtesy of Takaratomi, but marketed as GI Joe accessory packs.
Yeah.
If you were to rate or rank, I should say, those 5 in your favor, how would they stack up?
Okay, well, let's do the listeners a favor here quickly, just in case they can't recall them. There's
the
a little
tank car, which is a 4-wheeler green thing with a gun sticking out that a guy sits on top and rides like a kiddie cart. The ATV, which is a tricycle. This is an era before quad biking, I guess, was en vogue, and you had that tricycle death trap with a little laser cannon sticking out of the front. You had the scuba pack, which is a big ass silver motorized propeller driven and featured a rudder, lovely, and some removable fins, and you know, a
rebreather.
Yes, I was going to say, what is it? A regulator. Yeah,
regulator.
The hose, the regulator, which goes into the figure's mouth, which you cringe every time you try and slip that over a figure because it's going to add stress to the backpack peg, and also stress to the hose itself, and potentially rub the face of your figure. So all around, all around, I think I know which one's going to be on the bottom of the pile. And then on the Cobra side of the fence, you've got the rocket sled and the gyrocopter.
Yes.
So, Paulie, who do you love? Who do you love? Hubba, 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 hubba. Who do you love?
Hey, Jack, the Joker.
Yes, we all love the Joker.
Yes.
The Joker loves you too.
So I'm just thinking, okay, so I got to put them in order of the best ones. Okay, cool. So easily the first one is the gyrocopter, the Cobra gyrocopter for me.
Ah, top of the pile. Okay.
Yeah, I love that thing, dude.
Do you believe that those 2 sort of prongs on the wings are weapons?
I always imagined they were like little machine guns. Although I don't know how you shot with them without blowing your legs off, but
it's perfect level to like kneecap your action figure.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like, okay, he's coming in for the kill. How do you know? His knees are on his chest.
His legs have just fallen off.
Yeah, and then you see some Steel Brigade guy get taken out by like a number 7 boot.
Bombs away.
So yeah, the gyrocopter. I actually love the scuba pack.
Oh.
I actually, and I mean, these are 2 I had as well, which is cool.
Did you play the scuba pack as is, or was it like a jetpack?
No, I played it as is. I really loved the fact that you could put that in water and it could do its thing. I thought that was so cool.
Much water in Johannesburg. Where'd you play with it? In a pool or a stagnant pond? Like a sewage farm, maybe?
No, man, the pool and friends pool and the bath, man. That thing was great in the bath. I mean, I was like the perfect age to play with that toy in the bath.
Nice.
And okay, so then third, I haven't had experience with the little tank car,
Mhm.
but yeah. I'm gonna say the little bike, the little tricycle. I also believe I had that. I I I,
Okay.
I keep thinking I had memories of that, and then the hover sled, and then the tank car.
Being a fan of the GI Joe video game, I would have expected the rocket sled to rank higher, to be honest.
Let's put it this way: it totally does. I mean, not that it totally does. It's just that I think it's cool. The video game definitely made it cooler. I also had that as a kid. Um, I didn't quite understand it too much when I was a kid until I saw it in the game, and then when I saw it in the game, it was too late because I'd already lost it, or it got stolen, or it got broken, or whatever. By that point, so I did kind of put it on a higher pedestal, and but then they did that Cobra Commander that came with that cool backpack, the modern era one, and then that backpack, that helicopter backpack, just brought back all the memories of that battle pack gyrocopter, and that's just really shot that way up there.
I think it
And
was the most popular, to be honest. I seem to
yeah,
recall the rocket sled being a very slow seller. I
yeah,
mean, look, if you were unwrapping your Christmas presents expecting this carded thing to be an action figure and you got a vehicle action pack, Motorized, like, it was kind of disappointing. Because without an action figure, you can't really make sense of this damn thing. It's not a toy in and of itself, it's an accessory. And I think they only were worth half the flag point,
yeah, that was
as
kind
it
of
should
weird.
be.
Yeah, but like also like, I mean that stuff didn't matter to me clearly. But
No, didn't matter anyways. We couldn't exchange flag points for GI Joe premiums.
but what was cool about those battle packs is they did get me like curious about characters like Voltor and stuff. I mean, I think Voltor on the packaging of the hover, he's on the hover sled on the
Rocket
packaging.
sled. It's a rocket
Rocket
sled,
sled.
Paul.
I keep thinking of it as a hover sled because of the video game. Sorry, rocket
True,
sled.
true. It's interesting to try and ponder what the functions of these things are, particularly the rocket sled. I
Mm,
mean, it should be able to be worn like a backpack and be a jetpack, essentially.
mm.
But it's designed for a guy to kind of lie belly down on it, which
It's
is
also,
suicide. I mean, if you
it's
were
also
scooting along the ground with
yeah.
a rocket underneath you, like, you do not want to be on anything other than like
Flat.
glass, like the
Yeah.
flattest surface ever. I mean, that
I
thing
just,
can't have any
yeah.
suspension. You're gonna
No.
feel every little bump on the road. Like, gravel would be the worst experience ever. Not to mention anything slightly marginally off road. Like, even a cricket pitch would be like,
I'm just thinking like the most effective use of that thing in combat is to like strap a dude with bombs and let him rock on one of those. It's like a smart bomb.
my claim to fame. Hey, just a little bit of shameless self promotion. Form BX257 reviewed all 5 of them in one video, and he credited GI Joburg with uh, alerting him to the fact that if you pull back the rocket sled, the not only does it go forward, but there's a mechanism that spins the little turbine in the back,
Love that.
and it's
Yeah.
linked. Yeah, so that'll move, which actually makes no sense if you think about it. Like, the way a rocket engine, the way a rocket engine works doesn't use a turbine at all. It's literally just burning hot jet fuel pumped into a chamber and then exhausted out the back. But if you think of a jet engine that requires an air intake in the front, that's the end that has the turbine blades, not the back. The back is
Yeah.
just an exhaust pipe.
But you have to, I mean, let's not like stray away too far from the fact that pretty much all of these backpacks, with the exception of the scuba one, are all pretty absurd. Really. I
Look,
mean, why would?
no, come on, Paul. There are midget bikes well documented in conflict.
Oh
Like, the
no, that's not.
ability to, like, if you're a messenger or a scout, to have a backpack that folds out into a usable vehicle. And hey, look, in as early as 1984, the Whale had one.
Yeah, and that's a real bike, which
Mhm.
is crazy. But like, no, but that's kind of, you kind of touched on what I'm getting at there. It's not so much the size of the bike or the size of the car or whatever. It's the fact that you're carrying it on your back. You know,
The tank car, particularly. I mean, not like that thing's necessarily
like
too
light,
armored. Yeah,
yeah,
but
but
I mean, for
still,
its namesake, it's got to be pretty heavy, I guess.
yeah. I mean, it's just, I get the scuba thing. That just makes a lot of sense because, you know, with that you can move through water faster and all those good things. But
And you're
you know,
effectively weightless, so it being on your back doesn't incur any kind of real penalty.
right? I mean, but like, you know, hey, you know, repeater, why have you got that, you know, tricycle on your back? And it's like, you know, and then
It's leg day.
you know, it's like,
Doing my squats, man.
yeah. But it is, but they are. I suppose the absurdity is kind of what makes them great, and I still love that gyrocopter, and I still love that scuba pack. In fact, those are two things I'd love to have back in my collection.
You know what? It just occurred to me. I think the gyrocopter is the only motorized vehicle pack from 87 or 88 to feature in a GI Joe comic book. Huh.
Oh,
Yeah. The issue where Cobra troops invade the laser installation that Joe is protecting,
oh yes,
and
yeah,
they're dressed as Iron Grenadiers.
yes,
But then they peel off their IG uniforms and they've actually got their entire Cobra ensemble underneath. Ha ha.
yeah.
Okay,
Isn't there like a
there's
Techno Viper or something in there as well?
Toxo Viper, Fireflies in there. I think is Scrap Iron in there? No, maybe not. But yeah, everyone peels off their IG uniforms eventually, and they're wearing their Cobra stuff.
Nice.
It's a cool issue. There are great touches in that issue throughout. The fact that when they are in their IG uniforms, they're using Cobra equipment, so you can clearly see that is a Toxo Viper's gear. That is Firefly's gear. Like it's man, they knew what they were doing. They were
That's
peddling toys, but they were being smart about integrating practical toy play into a compelling, cool action story.
hmm. And
Damn it,
giving
man!
us,
I miss the days when the GI Joe comic book directly supported a toy line. That might sound like a morally bankrupt or creatively bankrupt thing to say, but something about just getting direction and urgency from a product really just, I don't know. I feel like that was the magic component to just set Larry's incredible depth of creativity off on an adventure. Like he needs just a little something, just a little kick.
hmm.
Now, unfortunately, all he gets it from is the scant letters pages that GI Joe comics. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. It's going to be a topic for a future podcast. The fact that I am finally, as of this day, like up to date with the GI Joe comic book series for the first time in my life. I never made it a priority to read on into IDW, and I only finished reading the Marvel run long after its publication. I mean, like, only many years after the trade paperbacks did I finally have a complete set. So yeah, I've always kind of been on the back foot as far as like filling holes in my GI Joe knowledge. But yes, we can have that conversation at a later stage because right now, Paul Loebscher,
Yes.
I want to get to the bottom of your love of the Cobra Pogo. Because last week it topped out on your favorite 2 flag point vehicle list.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
The microphone is yours.
It is okay. So it's like lauded as like one of the most impractical vehicles ever, and I kind of
We're
like.
going to get into it.
But I like the challenge of that. I like the challenge of the fact that, because that's okay. So let me start at the top. Firstly, I've always liked how this stupid thing looked. I think it's always captured my imagination. Even though it's kind of a dippy thing, it's always and also the color scheme used in the original, the sort of dark grays and red, the Astro Viper colors have also always just spoken to me with this vehicle. It just looks like something that's so retro sci-fi kind of, alien spacecraft kind of vibe that's going on with it. And
But do you play with it as such?
I actually like the idea of it being a big, stupid, bouncy dustbin, but it does make a lot more sense if it's like in space, because of its design and all that. I mean, it does work as like a good breaching craft. I mean, if GI Joe was like totally a space thing or went into space and Cobra launched out these little pods, these are great, like it's kind of basic starfighters that could then like sort of attach themselves to an enemy starship or whatever, and then they could jump out and breach the hull and all kinds of cool things.
If I was to force you to make a decision, though, to either play it like a Cobra Invader, which is absolutely like hand in glove, perfect fit, yes, or to dial back and be a purist, and as the box blurb would have you believe, Cobra is hopping mad, and he's coming after Joe in his one-man ballistic battle ball. No battlefield obstacle can get in its way. And as that blurb would have you believe, this thing is literally bouncing up and down on the battlefield. Which one do you choose?
Yeah, that's okay. So if you're gonna go by yeah. Oh, dude. Okay.
I don't want an explanation, Paul. I want an answer. Which one do you choose?
No, you're putting a gun to my head here.
I am putting a gun to your head. Be decisive. Come on.
This is not going. Yeah, like. Ooh. I want to.
I think I broke him, ladies and gentlemen.
I want to stand up for this boy, and I want to make it like really, really, really worthwhile. So I've got to say that the space angle is the best angle. And that's probably the way I'm going to have to play it. And I did sort of mention it earlier. There's an Astro Viper color scheme or color aesthetic here. So I wonder if this wasn't originally designed to be some kind of GI Joe space thing that they changed that idea and then brought that idea back to the surface when they made it the Invader or whatever it was. But yeah, I think this thing is hands down, to make this puppy shine, it's the best space vehicle. Or it's not the best, it's one of the coolest ideas for a space vehicle. Although I can't resist the comedic appeal of making it a land-based vehicle and then killing people with it. It's just, I mean, if you get killed by a Pogo, that's like the most embarrassing thing ever. Because you should see it coming, hopefully. Yeah, and I mean, the gun swivels down and for landing, and it was such a great vehicle. Oh, that's another thing. The GI Joe video game also kind of really sowed some seeds in my head. It's actually the GI Joe video game's fault that I like both this thing and the Buzzball, to be fair.
I think I'm in the same camp as you, my friend. They are easy skips until you play the video game, and then they're essential must-have items. It's like, I need, firstly, the Cobra Battlecopter, the Buzzball, and then the Pogo. Like, simple as that. And the Pogo is pretty indomitable. It has an extremely high jump, as it should have, and it shoots in all directions and through surfaces. It goes through walls and the ceiling. It's
great. Because, clearly they looked at the toy and they were like, oh, the gun pivots up and down. It must shoot in 360 degrees. So,
look, okay, I'm still trying to wrap my head around the practicalities of this thing as intended. In aviation, critical phases of flight are takeoffs and landings.
Yeah.
In a Pogo, you are being forced to basically have a procession of takeoffs and landings constantly, over and over and over again. I mean, that makes it a hazard, and there's a failure rate that you're basically playing the odds against. Something's going to give, and it's going to be your ass. You're going to be scattered along a cliff face, or just botch the landing. I mean, is it using its legs to propel itself upwards and the reaction control thruster to slow its descent? Is that your understanding?
That makes the most sense to me. Yeah.
Okay. How high, like, if you were to indicate on your body, how high is this thing's arc? Is it going to bounce as high as your head? bounce as high as your outstretched hand above your head? Is it a lower bounce? Is it basically just up to your waist or even lower than that? Like when you're playing with this thing, how high is it bouncing?
Oh
Typically.
wow. Okay, I would say like for me what makes the most sense is probably about from the ground to my chest. That's how high it could jump.
Yeah, that's ergonomic. That's comfortable, and you're able to kind of control it. Of course, you have to be pretty nimble playing with this with a pogo because you're
Yeah,
kind
that's
of
squat.
getting down, getting up. Oh, it's gonna be hell on the knees, my friend.
Yeah,
Which
well,
just leads me to believe it's gonna be hell on all the mechanisms that make this thing work. Like, wow, Cobra
yeah,
Tech is resilient, man.
it's super resilient. But then, and Robert Kulupitan, I hope you're listening because you got me back into playing that damn Gundam game. I just re-downloaded it, and I've sort of just been smattering in there for like 10 minutes or so. And I will link up with you so we can play a bit of multiplayer. But what I realized when I was playing that game is when I'm using like a Gundam mech, specifically a mobile suit from the Gundam universe, and combat happens, there's a lot of jump strafing. So what that means is, you're strafing the enemy, you're going around them, but you don't just want to walk, you're jumping. So you're changing your profile. You're going ground, air, ground, air, ground, air. And that makes you, harder to hit in the combat situation. It also makes it a little bit difficult for you to maintain your aim, but if it's a technique that you get down, it's actually very, very useful. Also, I just love being in a big giant mech and shooting with my boosters and jump strafing.
Paul,
But
that is profound. Can I just say that now that my mind's eye has gone to that kind of gameplay, you have just saved the pogo. Ladies and gentlemen, he's done it. He's done it. That is how the pogo operates. That is what makes it tick. These things are adding to their maneuverability the ability to change their aspect. They are ascending and descending. They're constantly moving along every plane, not just horizontal or vertical. They are moving diagonally, up, down, left, right, back, front. Incredible, dude. You've done it.
Yay!
Wow.
And I can even go as far as to say that it is a fairly armored thing as well. I mean, it's kind of, it's armored.
No, it is not. You've just broke your credibility. Everything that you've just earned. No, these things are one shot, one kill. And moreover than that, I would say that you don't want to deploy too many of them into one operation zone, because once they start hopping around, like the chance of mid-air collisions multiplies exponentially.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like these things do not move in squadrons or in plagues, like a plague of locusts.
Fleas.
Because yeah, dude. Exactly. They're fleas, but they're giant mechanical fleas, which when they collide, it's just going to be parts strewn everywhere. Yeah, I imagine they're deployed very sparingly. Who is your go-to pogo pilot?
Okay, so I love for the Pogo, when I first got it, the first guy I actually popped in there was Firefly. Believe it or not. Just felt like it was kind of a good go-to for him.
Kind of the wrong era, but if you're flexible, it works.
Yeah, but then again, Firefly, I mean, he's kind of, I don't want to say an immortal character, but he's a character that sort of survives through all of the lines anyway.
True.
And I suppose another good person for this would actually be Scrap Iron, and actually now that I think about it, Scrap Iron's not a bad idea because now I know what to do with that toy. Yeah, he's not a bad pilot for it. I've currently, as we're talking here,
Gonna be a tight fit with that giant head of his.
That said, I have got Battle Armor Cobra Commander sitting quite comfortably in mine now as of this recording, because I just thought it'd be cool to have it as the box art implies.
And let's face it, you're gonna need powered armor to survive the punishment that this thing is gonna dole out on your body. And that's if you have a flawless mission. Like if you do get shot up a bit and have to make a particularly hard landing, like going to shatter every bone in your body otherwise. So yes,
True.
Battle Armor CC is probably the best fit.
Also, something worth mentioning, and it might seem really simple when I mention this, but these things don't necessarily always have to be jumping high. They could be making, like as you mentioned earlier, they can go in any direction and whatever. But they could also just be making small little hops. That kind of makes them faster in a weird way. Like,
can they walk like the GI Joe video game would have you believe? They kind of arch up and then release, arch up and release, kind of like centipeding their way across the ground.
I think this. I think there is good grounds for a sort of insectoid style movement for them. Like a very War of the Worlds kind of three-legged. What do they call them in War of the Worlds? I think they call them striders, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, there is like, I suppose there is precedent for
tripods.
There is precedent for them to walk, but
awkwardly. I'm trying to imagine it. It doesn't look pretty.
But I mean, if I come back to the flea analogy, or the flea comparison, should I say, fleas, they don't really walk. Once they've landed on something, then they sort of use their little legs to like crawl and, get to an opportune spot. But they generally just launch themselves all the time. They're always bouncing. They're very horrible. We've had to deal with a flea problem here in my neighborhood once. If this thing just moves like a flea does, it's actually on the battleground. Doesn't have to even jump that high. Just it's always moving. That's intimidating enough, and that makes sense for its movement to me. It's just always like springing. So maybe it's like preloading one leg. One leg is always like dormant, while two of them shoot it off. Or I don't know. Like I just don't imagine it really walking. But then again, there must be some kind of walking mechanism for you to park these things. In the warehouse.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the hangar, not the warehouse, the hangar.
Got to get a crane every time you want to move them around. No thanks.
Yeah.
Mine, which I recently got as recently as last week, hence the topic, had its cockpit stickers on the wrong way. I assume the Cobra symbol is supposed to be towards the back, and obviously the targeting reticle to the front.
Correct,
but I was able to detach the glass and swap that around. I did notice, however, the 3D Joe's has the unit marking, or the ZOX 699 stuck to the glass. I'm like, Carson. Hey man, you go to war with the toys you have. Like, if that's all he had available the day he was shooting the 3D spin, that's all he had, man.
No,
You're not gonna put the brakes on while you source a better stickered Pogo. I mean, it's an immaculate specimen, but I would say that the stickers are in the wrong place.
Yeah, that can. I think for something like the Pogo, that can hurt it a little bit.
I mean, it's ambiguous in the placement indications, but yeah, I would definitely want the markings to be on the red and not on the glass.
Well, thankfully, mine was my Pogo comes to me courtesy of Jim Godfrey.
And
this was his childhood Pogo, as far as I know. And I've actually still got the box as well from him, and he stickered this bad boy up. And if anybody's actually seen any of Jim's customs, or any kind of paintwork or anything that he's done on toys and figures, that this is a meticulous man who probably took some serious priority in the sticker placement here. So yeah,
so expertly done, in other words.
Expertly done, yeah. The only thing mine's just missing, I'm missing a missile. Yes, say that 5 times faster. So
wait a minute, it only comes with 2.
Does it? Because there's a pig for a third one. Drives me.
I know, dude. You could source a third one, I'm sure, but in this world, there is a shortage of Pogo missiles, and the reason being, it has 3 places to store them, but only 2 included. True story.
1.
I mean, what's up with that? And it's got a lot of sellers confused as well. They're like 99% complete Pogo, and I'm like, no, it's 100% complete. You just didn't realize. So yeah, let me blow your mind, ladies and gentlemen. But as the topic might have suggested, or maybe it's found its way into just the intro blurb that I gave at the top of the podcast, Paul, do you like the Triple T? from 1986?
Aesthetically, yes. I think it looks.
Whoa.
I think it looks cool. I don't hate it.
Damn
I
it,
think
man. I wanted this to be a one-shot kill. Like, do you like it? No. Okay, moving on. But yes, Paul, tell me why you like it.
I just think it looks super cute. It's such a cool little vehicle, actually. And we saw one. Or I saw one for the first time at Greg Crockett's place. And no, it is a combination of Greg Crockett's place and Kokomo Toys. And I actually was like surprised at how cool it actually is when you look at it. But it is a shooting gallery, and that is kind of like that makes it difficult for me to want to like use it functionally, you know, as a toy, you know, like or as a vehicle in the story. But it does also look like it's the front of something bigger. I don't know if you feel that. Like it feels like it just feels like the nose part of like a bigger vehicle. Like maybe there was supposed to be like some kind of cool trailer that connects to it, or like maybe it was like a two-piece kind of like a weird Havoc type thing, and then they ultimately decided just to use the front part to make the vehicle, because the back doesn't look as good as the front does, if you know what I mean. Like a lot of good GI Joe vehicles, the back in some ways is just as cool looking as the front, and
it's somewhat chibified.
Yeah, it is super cheapy. That's why I think it's like cute.
So, you know, it's a box. It has a very boxy profile, and it fits that kind of geometric shape of like actually a perfect square, because it's very stunted and very tall. So tall, in fact, that it pushes the figure to the very top of it. So, like, you don't want to roll this thing because you got no roll bar over you. Like, effectively, the tallest point on the vehicle is the action figure's head. Yeah. So watch yourself on. I mean, it is pretty stable.
Yeah.
It won't necessarily have a risk of rolling or going nose over tail or tail over nose. But if you were to go up a serious incline and fall backwards, yeah, you're gonna lose your head.
Yeah.
But you're right. It does seem like it got shrunk down and chopped.
Yeah.
Because the cockpit almost seems like if the vehicle was bigger, you'd be able to have an enclosed shell, like an aircraft cockpit over the driver's position, and it would fit the lines perfectly. But because it's shrunken down and the action figure therefore looks like a giant in it, you can't complete the line. You can't have a canopy.
And you can't even like looking at it doesn't even look like you could mod it to do that either. Like it doesn't look like you could really sink that seat in, or I mean, I don't want to never say never. I'm sure there are people that have maybe been successful with it, but
look,
yeah.
I enjoy the fact that it has a very high ground clearance. That's cool. You know, in a world of tanks that have essentially a block between their treads, I'm looking at you, Hiss. It's nice to have a tank that has tank treads and then a nice big space beneath it. You know, beneath the body of the vehicle.
And that's the other thing. Like that's the other thing that points to me feeling that it should have been bigger. It's got tank treads. Like I understand tank treads are cool and all that, but it could have also been like a 6-wheeled vehicle instead of tank treads.
Fair enough. Yeah, tank treads are fiddly, but let me tell you, like this little pocket rocket can go anywhere thanks to its tread. But the unfortunate drawback to it having its great ground clearance, it is super hollow on the underside. It is Fred Flintstone mobile hollow. You got dangling feet. But shout outs to a fellow YouTuber and Facebook group owner, good old Sgt Slaughter's Slaughterhouse. He pointed out it's like a jet became a tank.
Yeah, it looks like a starship. Yeah.
It has a lot of those attributes. And the fact that it mounts missiles on its wings, essentially, just further add to the credence that this is all sorts of design soup.
So, yeah, because when I looked at it, it kind of reminds me a bit of a Colonial Viper from Battlestar Galactica.
Very good. Yeah. Just needs its nose to kind of stick out a little further.
Now, I would say that this design, like the way it is,
Jeez, Paul, you're onto something. It's got that kind of like triangular fuselage. Ha!
Hey, I would say if this vehicle, okay, the design of this vehicle would make a lot more sense if they designed this for GI Joe the movie, but they didn't. At least as far as I'm concerned, this seems like it came long before GI Joe the movie, and they took this and put it into the movie. Because in GI Joe the movie, it actually makes a lot of sense for being the kind of design it is, if you consider what Slaughter's HQ looks like, which is, as you know, it's cobbled together with aeroplane parts and all kinds of stuff. It's like a real junk mountain. It's actually very cool. But then this vehicle makes a lot of sense in that milieu. He's like, yeah, put some tank treads on because, how are we going to get replacement tires out here? It's easier to maybe repair treads. I don't know, but maybe that's, all of those things kind of make sense. But yeah, the fact that it wasn't designed, I think, for the movie, and I'm fairly confident on this, it definitely adds to the mystery of this. Like, what was it meant to be?
Is it okay? We can only conjecture as to what it was meant to be, but in its final presentation, do you believe it to be just the Sarge's chariot, or do you believe that there are Triple T's lying around a motor pool for use with any other GI Joe personnel who need like an all-terrain vehicle?
No, I want to think. Oh, I'm gonna say that I think this is very much. No, actually, no.
Ooh.
Let me take that back.
He's flip-flopping, ladies and gentlemen. He can't decide what's it gonna be.
The more I look at it, the more I think that maybe it was like a prototyped vehicle that maybe GI Joe was going to use around the base for base defense. And it would probably be used by like Steel Brigaders or something. I mean, in this current incarnation, let's take away all the other sort of speculation about its design. Then that kind of makes sense for it to be this quick little reaction vehicle as a security vehicle on a GI Joe base. But then maybe the idea was scrapped, and the only prototype that was sitting around, it just made sense. And like Slaughter was like, I need a vehicle, and they're like, oh well, we got one of these sitting around, and it's kind of low maintenance because this is its purpose, and and he's like, yeah, I'll take it. You know what I mean? So I think maybe it was designed to be like mass produced, but then it ended up just not surviving, the GI Joe funding committee, and then went straight to Slaughter with all the other GI Joe rejects that need to be repurposed and fixed,
like the Renegades.
like the Renegades.
Man, because part of me was like, I know the Sarge drives off on a Triple T and the Renegades are on with their own motorcycles.
Yeah.
In the movie. Well, wouldn't it be cooler if like each of them had access to their own like customized Triple T? Because like the standard gray one says Sergeant Slaughter on the side, and it's very like USA, American flag, star, bam, 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 United States. Yeah. But like Mercer's got a different bent to his, with like a couple of like crossed out Cobra symbols, and Taurus. Yeah. I don't know. Taurus is filled with like mystic stuff because isn't he he's a traveling acrobat with a circus or gypsy, something like that.
Yeah.
So he's got all these like little curios and tusks and bones and things.
Actually, that would be so cool.
and of course, Red Dog's totally Mr. T'd his up, and it's covered in bling.
And it's got like a serious like bull bar or ram rod or whatever it is in the front. Like
totally. And they're perfect for that kind of environment. This is for crossing the deserts and going on maneuvers and training missions with the Renegades. And it's a cool little utility vehicle. If you demand realism from your vehicles, like this is a tug. It's a little tugboat. You should hitch a flatbed trailer to it, and it can haul tons of wreckage to the slaughterhouse to be repurposed as living quarters.
Right, and also you could use it to pull all of the towable weapon systems, like the flak, I think, has got a tow bar, and what is the other one? The cannon?
You have to go with the flak first. No, the flak is not towable. But yes, the whirlwind, the hell,
Thank you. Sorry.
What's it called? No, I'm sorry. I'm a stickler. I'm an evil friend who likes to correct his friends.
No, man.
Terrible.
I'd rather know than
You'd rather it be me than a YouTube comment.
There we go. Right.
Speaking of, shall we move to our letters section before we close out the show?
Letters page. By the way, I want to see people customize. I want to see a Red Dog and Taurus triple T now. So to our customizers out there, make it happen.
Sorry, Mercer, you don't make the cut.
Yeah, sorry, Mercer. I mean, I love you, dude, but yeah, I don't know. I can't. Actually, maybe that's the challenge. I can't see it.
Mercer's would be the easiest because you just kibble together a whole bunch of like reject off-cut Cobra vehicle parts. Like you take the bloody cow catcher from a hydro sled and make that the bull bar, complete with the harpoon. You just take Cobra toys basically and attach it to the triple T. Whereas with Red Dog and Taurus, you've actually got to scratch build some things.
Yeah, and maybe buy some like prehistoric sets from the toy shop, or dinosaur hunter sets, and cut up some of that stuff and slap it on there. Oh well.
You could use real bling. You could use real like gold chain for Red Dogs.
I've got a funny feeling if I say this, and Bart is listening.
It's gonna happen.
If somebody makes the Sgt Slaughter triple T, as in tits.
Oh yeah.
Bart's like, I'm gonna make that one.
Look, someone out there has got to, and it's probably gonna be Taurus's one. Hang the giant like bollocks off the tow bar.
Yes,
you've seen those, right? Like giant testicles, like giant bull balls.
We live in South. Well, okay, we live in South Africa. We've seen them all over the place.
I live in Australia, mate. Believe me.
Yeah,
that shit rules the day here as well.
Yeah, dude, it's I don't know if you saw that kind of stuff in Cape Town, but yeah, it's all over Joburg and Pretoria. All these highlights.
Yeah. But we were switching to the bloody letters page. I think we've swollen the resale price on triple T's enough. Expect the price spike as everyone goes out to make their customs. But on our classified Snake Eyes unboxing and review, Brandon Kiesler says that fortunately, with my 3 3/4 inch line complete, I'm now fully invested in the classified line. I've given up everything else and I'm here for the long haul. I just hope Hasbro is too. Bloody hell, that was a great review. Thanks, buddy. It's people like you and the quality of your content that keeps our spirits high through the low times. Thank you. Hey, thank you, Brandon. Got anything to say about that, Paul?
No, dude, you do you. Rock and roll, man. And congratulations on having a full vintage collection. Not that should be, a barrier to entry to buying classifieds, but hey, if you've got all of the vintage stuff, go for it, dude. That's awesome. If you're willing to bring a classified collection into your life, then so be it.
And this letter seems directed at you, Paul, in the talk about whether or not you should have a shared space.
Oh, I saw this.
Your toys occupy. It's got old Hans Chow. I believe that a person must have a space of their own. Now, it doesn't need to be an exclusive area that bars all others from entering, but it needs to be a space that may be used by individuals in the family unit to be alone, gather their thoughts, and enjoy the luxury of solitude. Life is hectic. Your job/schoolwork can overwhelm you. Your children/parents can challenge you in ways that you aren't totally prepared for. Your spouse/siblings can approach you with something that you aren't equipped to deal with at the moment. The ability to retreat and be introspective is of paramount importance to a healthy home life. Long story short, gentlemen, don't feel bad if you need a small area to yourself and your hobbies. It is your home and you must feel comfortable there. That being said, bless your wife, Mr. Paul. There is a lot to be said about a woman that will allow her husband to proudly display his vintage toy collection in their home for all to see. The height of comfort and acceptance. Bless her, good sir. Anyways, wonderful video, gentlemen. Always a pleasure to hear from you. I look forward to every video you put up. Keep up the good work. Thanks, Hans.
Thanks, man. I did see this in the comments, and I had a feeling that we would do a letters page on a podcast, so I figured I would just sort of collect my thoughts on it. And I am worried that maybe I sounded a little bit militant about not having a man cave. I think I was just trying to say that, and he touched on it really well, and that it's just good to have a space where your hobby is accepted. And if that means that you have to have a man cave for your hobby to be accepted and not be sort of sequestered. Like your man cave should be a space that is accepted by your significant other or by the people that you live with as maybe not necessarily a no-go zone unless you want it to be that, but it should not, you shouldn't be forced into that kind of arrangement. That arrangement should be, I think it's healthier if that arrangement is sort of accepted. And it's something that I was looking up man caves. We were talking, about this, and I took some time to look up man caves. And guys have some amazing man caves that they've set up in their basements or attics and things like that. Not necessarily for toy collection, sometimes just as a place to blow off steam and whatever's. And yes, I think it can be a very, very healthy thing to have your own space. I definitely insist that everybody has their own space and is able to get away from the people around you to get that space in. But I don't.
Look, it's not always realistic, though, Paul. I mean, we live in a world where some people have acres, some people have a 2-bedroom apartment.
Exactly.
You might not have the luxury of a separate room.
Mm-hmm.
In which case, you have a toy shrine, as I've gotten by with in the past.
And that's the thing, right? Because compromise is always easier with somebody who understands and respects your hobby. Compromise is much harder when you are with somebody or in an environment where people don't. And from a retail perspective, from having worked all the years in retail, I have seen the customers that have come in that have bought large amounts of toys only to have us lie to his wife that he hasn't bought any toys or anything new. I've had that situation. I've seen situations where one of my co-workers there, his then fiance, he's now a wife, dictated everything that he was allowed to buy. You see, those kind of things, I find that so unhealthy. And she herself is into the hobby. She's into anime, she's into gaming, she's into toys and stuff like that. But she dictated what was allowed and not allowed. And so there's no compromise there and no healthy compromise. So I think that's the word I'm trying to get at. As long as there's a healthy compromise, then, you do you. Some of us...
Look, I would argue that every case is different. And if you have a partner who is accepting of your hobby, great. If you have a partner who's putting the brakes on your hobby, that is your set of circumstances, and I'm sure you're dealing with it in the best fit that you can. Whether it's little white lie every now and then, or just issuing the truth, not bringing it up. It's like I make my own money. Hopefully, it's my business as to what I spend it on. As long as the bills are met,
there you go.
They're happy days. This is my happy space, and I'm sure the relationship is benefited by you being a happy partner.
Yes,
Indirectly, even a spouse who is putting the brakes on your hobby, perhaps, and is feeling like this is an unnecessary expense, is getting the benefit of your elevated endorphins about the fact that you just got new mail. You just got a package delivered to you, or something you picked up from the post office. Like, that is so essential to a relationship. You need something like that.
And it also completes you as a person. I mean, if you're the kind of person that likes that stuff and you're refused from being allowed to get that kind of stuff, then you are essentially incomplete, which makes you, which is difficult. When you're an incomplete person, when you're a person who has desires or needs and you're not meeting those needs, then
it could take a toll on the relationship itself. Yeah. Anyways, Paul, we are so bad at this. We are creating topics of podcast discussion out of letters, but very good letters. Thank you for writing in, anyone who did. You can obviously drop a comment in the YouTube section. They might be read out in future podcasts. Alternatively, you could actually send us an email. The address is arealsouthafricanhero@gmail.com. Let me do 2 more letters, shall we?
Yes, let's do 2 more letters. I'd love to hear more letters. I'm glad.
Logan Taylor, buddy, he says that as a fellow collector, I think it's disrespectful to cast GI Joe into a game for 6-year-olds. And this was in reference to Snake Eyes being a Fortnite character. What do you have to say to that, Paulie?
I'm kind of like, I'm thinking of the most diplomatic way to say this, but I got into GI Joe when I was a kid. I'm very thankful that there were GI Joe video games when I was a kid, and yeah, like I think that's the best way to answer it. Like, I don't think that GI Joe is necessarily an adult property. It's
I mean, if you want to see disrespect to perhaps the legacy of GI Joe, it's when a cartoon like Sigma 6 would do silly things,
I'm
like
right there.
like kiddie things.
Yeah,
I think even kids know when they're being talked down to. Like GI Joe is a property that can always have a level of seriousness and adultness throughout.
yes,
And kids will respond to that. I think that is when the puppet masters of the GI Joe brand start being disrespectful. I think Fortnite, it can go either way. I mean, it's still a game that deals with death. It doesn't shy away from your character being killed and respawning, which for most of us who are noobs, that's exactly what you wind up doing. sitting for 10 minutes in a loading screen and then dying 2 seconds later.
Hop in and get a headshot. Yeah.
Exactly right. Oh man, I've been left behind, bro. Multiplayer gaming is not for me.
Oh, it's not for me either. It's
power to anyone who's actually having success with the Snake Eyes skin.
I think the only multiplayer games that I've successfully played in my life consistently was Metal Gear. I used to play the Metal Gear Online thing quite a bit, and I also I've done quite a lot of that the Ace Combat game online multiplayer and the Gundam game. Those are essentially the only multiplayer games. Oh, actually, and Battlefield. There was a bit of a stint with Battlefield as well at one point. But my games are my man cave. That's how I escape. I like to have my solitary experience.
Paul, you have not one man cave, but two. You're in a very privileged position, my man. But Mr. Taylor, yeah, I don't know if I agree that it's necessarily a disrespect to collectors or the brand to have Snake Eyes in Fortnite. I think getting more eyes on GI Joe could never hurt. And as Paul said in the podcast last week, it's not a case of trying to get kids to buy GI Joe toys. It's a case of getting GI Joe collectors to get with the program, man. Play some Fortnite. Hey,
and Fortnite is only
join the masses.
And Fortnite's better for having Snake Eyes in it, in my opinion.
Yep. It was meaning to happen for so long, and they finally got it right. So, yeah, I'm also going to regard that as a win. Finally, Chandrap Gaming asks about the USS Flag. Can this be a desk? I would urge you not to place anything too heavy on this desk, like a desktop computer or your feet. But I suppose if you really insist, you could put your coffee mug on a flag.
I think that's a question of how do you want to do it? I mean, if you just wanted to use the toy as a desk, no. And I wouldn't even put a cup of coffee on there just purely because of the heat that a cup of coffee would generate, and you'd start getting weird warping and stuff eventually. I'm pretty sure.
Jeez, Paul, you Philistine! Don't you put a coaster under your cups?
I do. But I'm just saying.
Look, I think the flag's dimensions are prohibitive of it actually being a functional piece of furniture. It's long, it's squat. Even if you have raised it, it's squat. It doesn't move unless you put the wheels underneath. And you'd have to have a very interesting living room arrangement for that to be a functional piece of table. You're going to be trying to look at the TV past the tower. It's long, it's wide, it juts out in places. It's got fragile, breakable things. I freak out at the idea of small children running past the flag and bumping it ever so slightly, but that slight bump to move the trusses enough to snap all the the hooks. No bueno, man.
No bueno.
So yes, I would advise against it being a table or a bed. No.
And then I've got a question. I've got a letters page, not for GI Joburg per se, but for our listeners. I've found myself in an interesting situation with a playset, and I'm curious. Obviously, I want to hear your thoughts as well, Steve. But I have got the GI Joe HQ, and I'm loving it. And I have it displayed. I had it displayed with the front of the HQ facing me, which is cool. It does look great, and it looks good on your shelf. But the problem I was having is that I wasn't really able to enjoy playing with toys in there, and so I've since moved it around to another spot in my room, and I've turned it around. So I've got the front of it facing the wall, and now I have full access to the playset from the back. And I just kind of do this thing where I walk in, my box of Joes is kind of underneath it, and I'll grab 2 or 3 GI Joes and 2 or 3 Cobras, and I just pop them in there. And I just kind of have fun and just kind of cycle that around every time I walk past it. It's kind of weird, especially when I've had to deal with like an annoying email or something. I'll just walk there and be like, okay, set up Cobra Commander, think about my response, Duke is on the chair, that kind of thing, and walk away. So I'm curious, how do you guys display your HQ, and which do you think is the best way to do it?
How high up is your HQ being displayed?
It's about chest height, chest level. So
I would say that is not ideal. I think at waist height, you're peering down at everything. You can have it facing outwards. I would say ideally waist height and facing inwards towards the room, because you want to be able to shoot into the room. You want to shoot at approaching Fang helicopters on a strafing run.
Yeah.
And his tanks at ground level. So waist height is optimal, because then you can kind of peer over and everything is accessible. And it being it's kind of flat in the central section, and then you have a little bit of clearance in the vehicle bays. So those are accessible from the back, but there's nothing going on at the weapons storage bin. So that could be pushed right up against the wall,
so to speak.
Yeah, because there's no molding back there. There's no reason for any action figure to necessarily be back there. They can just as easily walk over the top of the weapons storage bins, so you're not losing any play real estate by having it pushed up against there. Yeah,
okay.
That's me.
Okay, that's cool. And I'm curious to hear the comments from our viewers. And then just a question, point 1, to add to this question is, what are your favorite vehicles to put into your GI Joe HQ? I've currently got my Foe Striker and my Vamp, the gray Vamp that was a re-release for Pursuit of Cobra. I mean, not Pursuit of Cobra, 50th anniversary, which is basically a Vamp Mark II. It's actually more a Stinger than a Vamp, really, if we have to get to the brass tacks. But that's currently what I've got in there. But I'd love to hear from our listeners, and anybody who's listening to this. I'd love to hear, what are your favorite vehicles to put in there. Now I know they are prescribed to put in there, but
Paulie, it's gonna flick your OCD bean when you put a vehicle or piece of equipment from series 1 or 2 in the HQ. It's just so great. Such a lovely, very thoughtful feature. I mean, they could just mold it blank to accommodate a maximum number of vehicles and equipment. But the fact that it's got divots and posts and intended sculpted recesses for the HAL, for the flak, for the MMS, for the Battle Bear, for the Vamp, for the Mobats, amazing.
Wow.
You can just cycle through all the series 1 and 2 vehicles and equipment, and just it's great. The Vamp goes in those divots. Does the Foe Striker's wheels also match up the hydraulic ramp?
They do divots? Actually. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it's very
that's a happy accident. But no, bro. Vamp, Mobats, Polar Battle Bear. I think the Wolverine also is a very appropriate fit. The fact that the slots, the Mobats cannon lines up with the slots so perfectly.
Yeah, I can pop it out there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's really
Yeah,
cool.
do yourself a favor, bro. I imagine you're going to get an overwhelming amount of those responses, but I'm looking forward to the creative responses. So,
Yeah,
dear
as am I.
listener, please let us know a more creative vehicle choice, like a Pogo and a Barracuda. Why not?
Why not? I'm going to say the most creative use of the of my HQ thus far was when Bart Simon, who sent it to me. I mean, he was my mail forwarding service. Thanks, Bart. He snuck in some Swedish fish in the file card compartment. You know, that's it in the
Excellent.
which I think it was so great.
I'm glad you discovered it before they became Swedish sludge.
I was just like, "What's this thing?" And I was just glad that the
What
actual
is
mail.
this sticky residue inside my
I
toy?
was just, oh man, I was just unbelievably pleased that the actual mail forwarding service I use, which is a company called MyUS, that actually does forward stuff from the States and does make things a bit easier.
Mhm.
Especially when you have to send like a biggish box, something that's got quite big dimensions, which the post offices are a bit scared to do. Well, they want to charge you out of your ass for it, but I'm surprised they didn't find it. You know, so
Mm.
I'm really happy they didn't find it actually, because had they found it, they would have like just removed it. So
Well, I don't advocate doing this necessarily, but I might have or might not have smuggled medicinal marijuana from South Africa to the United Kingdom in regular mail. So
allegedly,
happens.
yeah.
Allegedly. Yeah, you can't pin it to me. No records. But, ladies and gentlemen, with that bombshell, we're out. I think that's a wrap on one Pogo and three triple T's.
Three triple T's, T
Or
T
just
T.
three T's. I don't know. It doesn't fit the rhyme as sexily when I say it as it
Yeah.
does on paper. But anyways, this has been episode 185 of GI Joburg. Thanks for joining us on our plunge deep, deep into GI Joe. I'm Steve.
And I'm Paul. And boing.
Play with your pogos, boys and
Play with your
girls. Yeah.
Yeah,
Pogo
cool.
like it's 1985.
Oh,
Yo, Joburg, everybody.